What's going on, guys? Welcome back to A&E Podcast. I'm Bailey Driscoll.
And I'm Tom Luthner. And happy spooky season. We are super excited for the October series. I hope you guys are as well. Wanted to give a big shout out to Servants of Sleep for today's intro song. If you like that kind of music and you'd like to see them live, they are going to be at the Brooklyn Monarch next Wednesday, the October 12th, for $20. I will leave their Instagram down below, so if you want to reach out to them. But let's get right into the interview.
You can't break me down. You can't make me now. You insist it's me, but you forgot one day. Is there any more room for failure? Who is the parasite? Who is gonna be the one to pick up when the madness strikes? Thoughts and prayers need a little bit more. I'll be the center of attention in the middle of war. There's no excuses, you losers. Just look at the facts. You wanna be seen? You should've fucking stood where you're at. Put your fist up, phones down, and guns away.
What's going on, guys? Welcome back to A&E. My name is Tom Luthner.
I'm Bailey Driscoll.
And we're here with Ryan Sipavicius. For those of you who don't know, Ryan is an up-and-coming MMA fighter. So, Ryan, if you want to go ahead, shout yourself out, do whatever you want to do, go right ahead.
What's up, everybody? Boys, thanks for having me, first of all. My name is Ryan Sipavicius. Like the boy said, I'm an up-and-coming MMA fighter. Been doing this for a long time. Just starting to show the world what I'm about now. But I'm excited to be here. My Instagram handle is Ryan Sipavicius. And yeah, that's about it. Nice to be here, guys.
Of course, man. So we're going to get straight into the questions. So the first question I actually have, again, I've known you for a long time. And I knew that in high school specifically, you were phenomenal at soccer. So the first question I have is, what made you choose, fighting MMA? And I know you've done this for a while, but what made you choose this over trying to go pro in a different country for soccer?
Well, yeah, I've been doing MMA since I was 3 years old. So I've been doing this my whole life. And soccer came around about when I was 10. And once that came into my life, I was obsessed with soccer. I saw a lot of people around me playing soccer. My family, my dad loved soccer. So I went that route, you know what I mean? And I was good at it. So I got into high school. I played all 4 years. I got into a good college to play soccer, Division II. So that's when I realized, I got to college and I saw all these great international players from all around the world that were, quality players. And I was just, I got my burn on the field and I was good and I enjoyed it. Great. I still love the game so much and I was improving, but I realized my cap, I realized that some of these guys were deserving of playing in some great clubs and they still weren't because of the opportunity and how big the game of soccer is, you know what I mean? And how hard it is. Very competitive sport. So I don't know. I finished my 4 years in college and I really wasn't looking to just keep going with soccer. So I got back home and I picked up, it's kind of a long story, but I'll make it short. So UFC was the first sport to come back in the pandemic. And I finished college in the pandemic. I graduated in the pandemic. So there was no live sports. There was there was not much to watch. And MMA was the first sport to come back live. And one of my instructors, Shane Burgos, he was one of the first guys on one of the first cards to fight. And dude, he was fighting this guy, Josh Emmett. And that fight, I remember I was in PA with a bunch of friends. And I was like, guys, let's sit down. Let's watch this game. Let's watch this fight. One of my instructors is fighting, blah, blah, blah. So we all sat down and we're watching this absolute scrap for 3 rounds. These guys are, and like I said, it's a pandemic. So there's no fans around. You're hearing every punch, every kick, and I was just like, holy crap, man. This is what I do. This is what I know how to do at the highest level. So I was like, look, if my man Shane is up there, and granted, he's worked his ass off for years, you know what I mean? All the time I was away at soccer, he's been, building this. But I was like, look, if this guy and my coach, my own coach, Julio Arce, and so many other guys from our gym are right there in the UFC, I was like, I should do it. You know what I mean? I'm an athlete. I was born to compete. I love this stuff. So I was like, I've always been good at MMA. I should probably pursue it. And that fight ended up being, nominated for Fight of the Year. And it was the only fight nominated that wasn't a title fight. So that meant a lot, you know what I mean? And I was just like, you know what, I'm gonna go for it. So I got back from college and just started training and started my career as an amateur.
Yeah, that's amazing. And that actually leads me straight to my next question. So you said you had started when you were 3 years old. What got you into it? What made you think, you know what, I know a lot of kids pick up baseball when they're 3, 2, 3 years old, baseball, basketball, like little sports like football. So what made you, at 3 years old, if you could even remember, go, you know what, this is what I want to do?
Well, it's funny because my dad, huge soccer fan that he started me in Auburndale, a little soccer club over here, at that age, at like 3. And it was funny because my very first game, I would just like, I didn't like soccer at all as a little kid. I didn't want anything to do about it. My dad would turn on the games and I just walk away. So anyways, I'm here on my first game and I'm just like picking daisies from the floor and not caring where the ball is. Ball finally comes to me. All the parents start cheering and I'm like, all right, I'm doing something good. So I turn around and I score an own goal in my own net. And my dad, you know what, this kid's never playing soccer. Let's get out of here. So I don't know. My parents wanted me to be, active and do something with sports. So like there was Tiger Showman's Bayside here, about 10 minutes away from my house. I've always liked the Ninja Turtles, always wanted to be a Ninja Turtle. You know what I mean? So my mom threw me in there and that's history, man. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, times came as I grew older, like I would want to leave because like it just wasn't the same to me, like at 8 years old. But my mom was very persistent with my training. She's like, you're not gonna quit, and like it would be that until I fell in love with it again. And then I got my black belt, and then
Yeah, that's awesome. So I know that you were saying how you're watching the MMA fights, obviously during the pandemic, which was a huge time, and you heard all the, every hit in the arena, you're hearing everything. So I know that we're talking about what it's like to hit and be hit. So I know Bailey has a couple questions about that.
Yeah, so you mentioned Tiger Showman's. So I was wondering, like, what would you say is your exact fighting style? Like, have you had multiple over the years, or have you had one and just kind of stuck with that?
That's actually a good question because when I was younger, jiu-jitsu. So Tiger Showman's, we teach jiu-jitsu and kickboxing. And when I was younger, we would do our local tournaments. The Challenge Champions, where all the Tiger Showman's locations come together and they compete. And in those tournaments and even in training, I was always really good at jiu-jitsu. Jiu-jitsu was my strong suit. You know what I mean? Always. But as I got older and when I came back to the game after college, kickboxing became my strong suit. Not only because I don't know, I like watching that fight, you know what I mean? Like all these strikes, I was just like, dude, like that's awesome. So not only that, but Tiger Showman's, the way they run their amateurs through their careers is like they like to start us through kickboxing fights, amateur kickboxing fights, to really establish a good stand-up game. And once you're ready, once you have a decent record, then you could do the transition over to MMA. So I've always been training kickboxing and jiu-jitsu at the same time. But like I said, when I was younger, jiu-jitsu was my strong suit. And now that I'm competing at an amateur level, I'm really just focused on kickboxing. So right now, I'd say my stand-up is my strong suit. But, soon enough, I'm going to have to make that transition over to MMA. And I'm going to be having to equally train both. So we'll see what comes up, ends up being the strong suit there.
Yeah, that's amazing, man. And you said that you started out with jiu-jitsu and went over to kickboxing. So another question I have is, what do you think separates you from other fighters? Like, what's that? Obviously, I know that you were within your last Instagram post, you're 4-0, I believe. Are you 5-0 now? Is that correct?
No, 4-0. 4-0.
Okay, so I was gonna say within your last Instagram post, you're 4-0. So what do you think that extra step is that makes you a better fighter than the people in your division or weight class? Like, what separates you from those guys?
So humbly, I'd like to say, like I was kind of just born and bred to do this. You know what I mean? Like, there's a lot of guys who just pick up this sport, not too long ago. And granted, they put in the work, they work hard, they're good, they're quality, but I put in the same amount of work, if not more. You know what I mean? I work day in, day out. I have a great team to help me improve. But inside, what I feel makes me different is just that, like I said, I was bred to do this. Part of me, everything I've done, before I even considered competing, I thought of myself as a martial artist always, deep down, because, I got I received my black belt, and just everything I was doing throughout the years, like MMA's just became a part of me. You know what I mean? Not just like the physical and like the fighting aspect, but MMA gives back a lot, confidence, discipline, respect, So I feel like, you know, MMA was always just with me. I always brought that with me. And now that I decided, oh, you know what, you know, I'm gonna put my skills to the test. Everything I've learned, I'm gonna actually put it to the test and show these people, you know, that I'm the real deal. So I just feel like it comes easier to me. It comes natural to me. You know what I mean? It's not like, yes, I put in the hard work, but a lot of the IQ and a lot of those things just come back to me. It just comes with me from all these years of training. So I just feel like bringing that to a competitive level is something that these guys that, you know, only started picking up this sport a few years ago, they just don't have. And it's not something they could just go after because, like I said, I've been in this game for my whole life.
Yeah. Yeah. Another question I have actually going off of that. Do you think that playing a sport like soccer, where it's a very, you know, speed oriented sport, you know, you're constantly running, you're constantly staying in shape, do you think that helped you out when it came to getting back into the sport of MMA?
Yes and no. Yes, because like you said, yeah, the running was a big aspect in college. You know, like the soccer team was basically the track team, how much we were running. It was, you know, so our cardio was good. But at the same time, the cardio in MMA is different. You know, and in soccer, kind of like a long distance kind of thing. You're always running, you're always on your bike, whatever. Here and there, you go for your few sprints. When it comes to MMA, it's all high pace, boom, 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 boom. You know, just sprint after sprint after sprint, and it's just like it's a just different kind of cardio. You know what I mean? You're indoors when it comes to MMA. You're outdoors when it comes to soccer. Those play a factor, but yes, it has helped because my kicks are phenomenal. You know, when it comes to MMA, just like not the techniques are different, but the power and the mobility that I got over the years of soccer, just kicking and kicking and kicking. You know, like a lot of people in my gym, they just tell me, you know, like I have great kicks, and that's like, you know, that's my thing. So yeah, it has helped for sure.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So before you said you put in just as much work or if not more than the other guys. So I was wondering, like, what does preparing for a fight look like? Like, what's the training look like for that?
So right now at an amateur level, you know, like there's not much film and study that you could do on your other opponent, you know, because either they don't have film, they don't have that many fights. The accumulation of fights and film doesn't really give you enough to get, you know, that much feedback maybe. But, you know, now as we're building fights little by little, yes, we can start to read a little bit more about each opponent. But for the film, that's about it for the film, you know, like studying. But myself, you know, that's the main thing. Just getting ready, just making sure I'm ready. It doesn't matter who's in the cage with me. So what that implies is basically training Monday through Friday. Weekends I usually take off, but during, you know, if I'm in camp, I'll probably do something. I'll stay active. Yeah, just a lot of kickboxing. I like to primarily focus on my kickboxing since the fights right now are only kickboxing. The diet's the worst. No salt, no sodium, no nothing, like no fats, sugars. So like, yeah, granted, but you know what, while I'm doing it, I'm like, man, this is like the healthiest I've ever been. This is the greatest I've ever felt. And it's all worth it, you know, when it comes to it. Like when you get that win and like you get that feeling, there's nothing that compares to the feeling of a win. So I like to think about that feeling when I'm putting myself through hell with these weight cuts, you know, the water cutting. It's a lot on the body, basically preparing for these fights, but it's completely worth it. Completely worth it. And that's basically what goes into a camp, you know, just a lot of hard work, a lot of discipline. Gotta have a lot of discipline.
I gotta see now that you said that about like how, you know, you're putting your body basically through everything you can. So now I gotta say, what is the post-fight win celebration like?
Has ended. So basically the post-fight win, just a lot of pizza, man. A lot of pizza. A lot of win. You know, and I thought, I was like, man, I'm gonna drink, bro, because I haven't had alcohol, you know, like leading up to the fight. I was like, I haven't had alcohol in like months and whatever. But it's funny because I went to go take a few sips of alcohol. I was like, my body's just not used to this right now. It feels like toxic. Like it's just, so food is my, you know, like I love my Korean barbecue. I love my pizza. I love my sushi, man. Oh, it's just been great. It's just been great. But
so backtracking a little bit to pre-fights, I gotta ask, is there a certain song or a certain genre of music that you listen to before the fights?
Look, man, when it comes to music, I'm an encyclopedia of music, bro. I love all genres. I love rap, rock, country. I love everything, man. So like I have different songs. I have a walkout playlist, and like you look at it and you're like, who made this playlist? Because you have Gunna, and then you have like, I don't know, like James, like freaking, I don't know, just like some country artist there. You know what I mean? It's all like all over. But my walkout, I like Yosemite by Travis Scott. That song just gets me freaking pumped, man. And it's been years, and like it was past fight, I was able to like use it for my walkout song. So it was just almost like everything that was been manifested these past few years, it just came to, you know, to reality in that moment when I was walking out and I was hearing that song and hearing all my people screaming. I was just like, let's go, man. Let's get this dub.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I always like to ask. I'm big listen to any genre I can. So I always have to ask that question, especially when it comes to, you know, walking out, what the feeling is that you feel to that song. Going on a little bit of a mindset journey here. I know you're just talking about your mindset. So if you had one fight with anybody in the world, like your dream fight, you could fight anybody, somebody retired, somebody that passed away, somebody that's currently fighting in the UFC, who would it be?
Oof, it's a great question. I'd like to get in there with Nate Diaz.
Yeah.
I'd like to get in there with Nate Diaz, you know, like, and I'm not saying like current Nate Diaz. I'd like to get in there with like a young Nate Diaz, like at my, I mean, two young guys, and like knowing that he's a legend across from the cage, you know what I mean? It's just, I just want to see what that, you know, like, because he's very unorthodox. He's not your usual MMA fighter with, you know, nice technique. This guy will smack the crap out of you. You know what I mean?
he'll literally throw a nice open hand slap across your face in the middle of that.
I'd love to see, you know, like what that would be like, or Anderson Silva, complete legend. You know what I mean? He was just insane. So I'd love to get into the, you know, in the cage with him and just scrap. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, it's amazing. I wanted to see.
Those fights would be sick.
Yeah, those, I feel like they'd be amazing. You know, again, a guy like Nate Diaz, very unorthodox, throwing slaps at your face. You know, it's so demoralizing in the middle of a fight.
Exactly. You just never know what's coming at you. And Anderson Silva is the same way. You know what I mean? The guy will hit you and then just front face.
So now I have to answer, obviously, what I just said is most Nate Diaz makes everybody feel demoralized in fights. Is there any moment that you've been in the cage and you felt demoralized by an opponent, regardless if you won or not? There's somebody that, if you ever got smacked across the face or somebody starts taunting you and you've got a little demoralized while fighting?
Up until right now, no. All my fights have gone super well. You know, I haven't had a tough fight yet, but I get that feeling in training all the time, man. You know what I mean? I'm in that gym, absolute killers, UFC fighters, pros, up and coming amateurs, and not only MMA fighters. You know, like Tiger Showman's and the sport of MMA is growing so much that we'll get, you know, like professional boxers to come in, professional Russian wrestlers to come in and work with us. World champion jiu-jitsu guys, and like these are the guys that when you're training and you're like, you know, trying to get better, you go to train, you're like, you know, like I'm a kill it today, and then these guys put you through absolute hell. You know what I mean? They take you into deep water. There, you're like, why am I here right now? Like those are the moments that are demoralizing. You know what I mean? But because it's in training, you can go home and be like, I'm glad I went through that today, and you know, hopefully I don't have to go through that in a fight. You know what I mean? Every fighter wants to have an easy fight, quick fight, you know what I mean, and a successful fight, but that's not always the case. But if you could put yourself through hell and deep waters, you know, like while you're training, it definitely helps a lot, because if you ever get put in that position in a fight, you're used to it. You know what I mean? You've been here before. You can how to get out of this position and how to make it better. So yeah, definitely in training. There's some animals in that gym that they'll put you through.
So you put in all the work, you put in all the hours. How do you want to be remembered by like the end of your career?
Man, like it sounds crazy right now, you know what I mean? Because I'm only an amateur kickboxer with 4 fights, but like, and I'm Argentinian, so you know, like the other day after my fight, about a week after, I went to an Argentina game here in Jersey, and Lionel Messi was playing. You know, and he's the greatest of all time. He's the greatest soccer player right now. He's incredible. So to be there sitting watching him a few rows away, and he's wearing an Argentina jersey, and I'm just like, man, like this guy's the best player in history, best player in the world, and he's representing our country. You know what I mean? I was like, could you imagine what that feels like? My mom asked me, she's like, could you imagine what that feels like? I was like, I want to know what that feels like. You know,
Yeah.
I want to be the best, and like I want to represent my countries, you know, Argentina, the US. I want to be the best. I want to be the best, and like I'm gonna try my hardest, you know, to get there.
Yeah, and you know, obviously everybody wants to be the best when it comes to a sport that they're
Right.
involved in. So I have to ask, is there one fighter that you watch, like whether it's highlights, knockouts, submissions, is there one guy specifically that you watch and you're like, all right, this is who I'm going to take after. I'm going to learn every single one of their moves, every single one of their steps.
Honestly, man, like there's a lot of guys in the UFC that I would love to like take small things from, you know, small techniques, certain fighting things, you know, certain things they do in the fight. But at the highest level, I can't really think of one guy I want to completely look like. You know what I mean? I want to be my own fighter.
Yeah.
But there is one guy who I'd love to take, you know, technique, discipline, work ethic from. It's my own instructor, Julio Arce. This guy is a workhorse, man. You know, he's had nothing but hard fights, tough fights in the UFC, and he just gets in there. He doesn't care who. He just works day in, day out. His work ethic is incredible. Super humble human being. Always been my role model. He's been teaching me my whole life. You know what I mean? He's known me since I was 3 years old. So he's always been someone there in my life that I could be like, you know, like he's doing the right thing. Yeah. He's doing the right thing. So, and his fighting is just incredible, man. The guy never stops working in all areas of the sport: boxing, jiu-jitsu, wrestling, MMA. He's just a workhorse. So like, that's what I want to take after. You know, his fighting style is insane. His movement, his jab, his boxing, everything is so clean. So definitely, yeah, Julio Arce. I want to be just like my coach.
Yeah, I mean, listen, if you have somebody that's training you that you aspire to be like, it's the best thing you can do, especially, you know, working out of a gym where you said you're preparing against pro fighters, people that are pro in other countries, and having somebody like that looking out. And, you know, where you were just speaking about how you're Argentinian and you were at an Argentina game the other day, and where you talked about it earlier, playing against international people in soccer. I have to ask, do you think that there's going to be just people who are just as good that are international fighting that there were in soccer? Especially, again, you played the Division II level, which for those of you who don't know, it's the second highest level in the US for collegiate athletes. So I have to ask is, do you think that when it comes to fighting, you said you were amateur, you know, if you get to the next step, do you think that there's going to be those international people that are going to give you the challenge that people in college did?
Oh yeah, man. You know, for sure. If you look at the highest level of MMA, you know, like there's only a few American champs.
Yeah.
We got like 2 or 3 African champs, you know, like a few European champs, some Russians, you know, like they're always fighting is an international language. You know what I mean? It's self-defense when it comes down to it. That's how it all starts for most people. But for sure. And I've already fought an international guy, and he was good. You know what I mean? My third fight, you know, I fought a Canadian French guy. And yeah, he was good. Like I said, you know, like fighting, yes, it's growing and the highest level is in the US. But you go to Asia and there's one championship, and those guys are scary, man. Like the way they hit, train, the way they look, like they're just, you know, deadly. And you're like, can these UFC guys really hang with these like one championship guys? And like, of course, yes, I believe some can, but I believe if you throw some of those guys from Asia, from Russia into the UFC, and they'll kill it. And you know, it's happened already. Look at Khabib, the Russian. He came over, he took over. Look at Francis Ngannou. He was some guy from Africa working in like the mines and stuff, and then he comes and just completely knocks out the top 5 guys. So
yeah, you're somebody like Conor McGregor, who came in from Ireland, dominated his weight class.
And Ireland was never like a huge MMA, you know, known for their MMA, you know, and here comes McGregor and just changes the sport of MMA as a whole. So you never know where you're going to get the next prospect from. You know what I mean?
Yeah, let me ask, so within your 4 fights, you said you had fought the one Canadian French. Did you see a difference in his fight style when it came to fighting him rather than fighting the other 3 guys?
Not really. Nothing that really stood out. He was one of the more aggressive guys I've fought. You know what I mean? So, yeah, but not much. I'm sure I will. as further down the line, I'll see different fight styles. From you could guess. Like if you're fighting a Russian, he probably knows how to wrestle.
Yeah, he's going to take you down. Majority of the time, he's going to either take you down or he's going to try to get you to tap standing up.
Right, and if you're fighting a Brazilian guy, odds are he's filthy at Brazilian jiu-jitsu, and you don't ground with him either. You know what I mean? Yeah. So it all depends where the guys are, and that's when film comes into play, and you really got to study all your guys. But I know further down the line, I'll be able to spot and know these different fighting styles depending on where they're from.
Yeah. And I think this is my last question personally. Is there any fighter that you want to recognize right now that's another amateur, regardless if they're from your gym, if you had fought them, who you think will also be in the up-and-coming scene with you eventually?
Yeah, for sure. I got a few. I just named them out tonight. My boy Rob Baricchio. He's going 3-0 as a pro. He's fighting on CFFC. Guy's an absolute animal, man. He works just as hard as all the other guys in the gym. Absolutely deserves it. Total beast. Christian McCauley just made his pro debut not too long ago. He's 1-0. Also, another kid. Look, that's just us. That's just Tiger Showman's. We work super hard, man. Like, we want it, and we're gonna get it. So, yeah, my boy Rob Baricchio, Christian McCauley, Danny Boy Ramirez, and there's just so many. There's just like a good, there's just such a good amount of these like amateur fighters that I'd love to like shout out all my guys, but I'm just going to shout out everybody from Tiger Showman's, you know what I mean? Everybody from Tiger Showman's mixed martial arts, all animals in there, absolute hardworking people. And whatever each one of their goals is, I know they're going to reach it, because we're all after the same goal and we're all working together to get there.
Yeah, awesome. Again, that's what I said. That was my final question. So before we end, Billy, do you have any other questions you want to ask?
Last question. One, well, it's kind of two questions. One, when is your next fight? And two, is there any way like people who aren't around here can like watch it online or something?
Yeah, totally. All right. So my next fight is December 10th, fighting for a title. I'm going 5-0, getting that title shot. And after this fight, I was planning on making that transition to MMA, start doing some jiu-jitsu tournaments and making that transition to amateur MMA. But the promoter told me, we got this fight December 10th. And if you win the belt, you could defend in February at the Hulu Theater at Madison Square Garden. So that's a huge fight there. So I think I'm going to win this title, defend it, and then leave off on a good note, transition to MMA. And yes, there's always a link to watch it for anybody who can't make it to the show. It's usually on boxingtv.com, but if you follow my Instagram handle, I'll always have those links up there so you guys can watch live.
Yeah, so whoever's watching, I will be leaving Ryan's Instagram down below. So if you guys want to check him out, you guys will go ahead. His Instagram handle will be down below. I'll also get the links, so I can put that in the description, so if you want to check that out. Since that is the last questions we have, do you have any questions for us before we go?
I do not. Guys, thank you so much for having me, man.
Thank you for coming. It's amazing to see the journey. Again, we grew up together, so to see where your career is taking you through soccer back to MMA, it's awesome to see, bro. So I want to say congratulations on being 4-0 right now.
Thank you.
And I hope you have the best of luck in the future with your career, and I hope to make it out to one of your fights soon.
For sure, man. And look, I'm very happy for you too, man, doing this podcast stuff, telling people stories, getting to know them. It's a great thing, both of you guys. So
thank you, appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, Ryan, thank you so much again. For everybody watching, we will have more interviews for the month of October. Ryan is the first interview of spooky season. So thank you guys for checking it out. I hope you guys stay tuned for the next one.
All right, boys.